Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Melissa!
At age 23, I found myself 8.5 months pregnant with my second child. I also found myself sitting in a lawyer's office applying for a protection order against the father of my children. Only 6 months before, he had become addicted to methamphetamine, which led me down a journey. I saw an axe being thrown at me. I watched it land in the ground right in front of my feet. I'd had a hand around my neck threatening, "I'll kill you if you take my children." At my lowest point, I lay in bed unable to get up. He sat there and told me, "You're useless. You're hopeless. You can't even look after one kid. How are you going to cope with two?" I was broken. I'd lost all of my confidence, all of my self-esteem. The beautiful dream I had of a happy home was shattered. All of my hopes were just broken. However, that is actually not what I'm going to speak to you about today. I'm actually going to talk to you about the power of your intuition. Because had I listened to that intuition, I may not have found myself in that lawyer's office. Back at age 10, I knew I wanted to become a writer, an author. My father told me no, authors don't make any money. So I let that one go. But for about 13 years, I had no idea of who I was or what I could become, and I really struggled to connect with anything. Then at age 13, my family and we went on a trip and visited the beautiful Bay of Islands. Something there connected with me and told me, someday you will live in this place. Then at age 21, I fell in love with a tall, dark, handsome, charming man. He was a gangster. My intuition, it told me if I go down this path, there's a high possibility that there will be pain. Now we all know where that led me. However, I am actually grateful for that journey because it led me from Melissa before, and Melissa with not a lot of happiness, not a lot of anything, to Melissa 2.0, which I have to say, gosh, I love her. About a year on from leaving that relationship, I'd gone through my transformation, and I'd learned to listen to my intuition. I then made my decisions based on what that told me. That has led me to discover what I can do with my life. About a year after I left, I started going down into depression again, and I tapped into that pretty quickly this time. I heard my intuition telling me I needed to drive to the top of the North Island. So I got my family to look after my children, and I jumped in my car and I drove 600 kilometers to the top of the North Island. It's a very spiritual place. There I sat and I wrote and I wrote, and I forgave the father of my children for everything that we had been through. I let it go and I found peace. In that moment, I felt my intuition kick in, and it told me, Melissa, it's time to write your book. Not for yourself, but for all these women that have been through your journey and need to relate. With that, I left, and I still felt like I had something to find. So I drove and I called into all the little bays along the way, and I found Paihia, the place that I had once visited as a 13-year-old girl. This time it was calling me home. I sat on this little beach and I visualized my children going down this side-by-side slide which overlooked this tranquil bay. And in that moment, I felt like I was home. On this beach, the 3 days prior and the week ahead was forecast for rain. So I was sitting on this beach and there's this big, dark, gloomy cloud. And I thought to myself, right, if I wake up in the morning and if there's a beautiful blue sky, I will move here. Sure enough, I woke up in the morning, a blue sky. Now, despite my mum and my friends and family telling me I was nuts and the real estate telling me there's not even anything here for you to rent, I found myself 3 weeks later living in my absolute paradise with a view to die for. Since that time, I have followed my intuition on multiple occasions. That's led me to live in Sydney. It's led me to travel. I've published my book, Domestic Violence on Ice. I've married in the beautiful Cook Islands. And now we're planning to live in Spain next year, and I'm going to walk the Camino with my children. So what is in this for you? Well, I want to see everybody embrace their intuition, trust what will happen. Because when you do that, you might find yourself walking a path that will lead you on the journey that you are meant to take. Thank you.